I would like to know a little bit about what made you when you left the finance world. How did you realize that actually food was what you wanted to do? What was how did you make that that decision to move into such a very different kind of industry, and an industry which was very unusual for a young Arab man to choose? How did you make that decision?
Um, Listen, I think it's not a decision. I don't think it came out lightly because I think the Hadids in general did not like that idea. Maybe my aunt did. From my mom's side, it was easier. Um, but I think, when you go and do something and people see you being happy, being content with what you're doing, I think also the fact that you enter the world of the culinary world, um, where the kitchens are hell, very intense, very dynamic.
Yeah.
You stand on your feet all day long, very tiring. Um, but, and lots of people actually come to me nowadays and say, Jew, I want to do, I want to become a chef. I say, fine, but you have to have the perseverance and the will to actually withstand um, everything to do with fatigue and everything else, because it's very, very, very tiring. Um, so I was happy, even when I was tired, I was happy. I used to wake up, I used to go, I used to enjoy. I think it's perseverance. I think if you can't carry on, basically you realize it's not for you. But I carried on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I enjoyed. I like creating. I like doing. Because also the cooking has so many. Actually, being a chef has many aspects. It's not just a question of cooking. There's cooking.
Hmm.
There is meeting the client. There is the accounting part, whereby you do the costing and so forth. You look at different locations for an event. Um, it's always fascinating. And creating,
Yeah.
this is what makes it
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So after 3 years at San Domenico, what made you decide it was time to move into something else or somewhere else?
Um, I think Lebanon was moving into a better place. I think I realized that
Mm.
I can't remember what my age was, but I said to myself, I must have been in the 30s. I said to myself, or I'm gonna stay in New York and make it and make a life. But the repercussions are that you might break up from your family, um, or go back to
Mm.
Beirut, whereby you have the support of your family, and um, and you make it there. And I think Beirut in general was still raw, and I think still today it is still raw. I think there is
Mm.
lots to give. There are
Yeah.
lots of things for people to learn, and I think we're still very, very far away from where the standards of Paris, London, New York are. But people in
Yeah.
general.
And tell me, Hussein, was it around this time? Was it around this time when you did move back? I think it was in '95 that you met your wife, or had you met her before?
No, I met Zayn. I don't know, the first time I met her at a wedding, but I met her again at a wedding in 2003 or 4.
Ah,
And it was in
I see.
Istanbul. Actually, it was in Bodrum, at a friend's wedding. And that's when it actually clicked. And we got married in 2005. It must have been in 2004.
Ah, so you got married quite quickly right after meeting again, and then What, you
But I
had your
wasn't.
family
I
quite
was
fast after
getting
that?
on. I was like 41
Yes, I
years when I
know.
got
I
married.
was just trying to calculate the dates.
Yes, but the thing is,
Yeah,
when you
you were
get
older than
involved
the
in food,
average.
you don't have time. It's like, you work, you sleep, you wake
Yeah,
up, you go back to work. It's like very no time for anything.
yeah. It consumes you
And
completely.
and
Yeah,
and actually,
yeah,
our
yeah,
times
yeah.
are completely different from the norms. That, for example, when people go out at night, we are actually
That's
working in the
right.
restaurants, so it never coincided with
Yeah,
anything.
that's right. So tell me, Hussein, what was Lebanon like in 95? I actually came to Lebanon for the first time in 96 was my first time in Lebanon. And I was just blown away by the sheer beauty of it geographically. One of my best friends invited me and another close friend, and we spent 3 days in Beirut, and then we drove all around Baalbek, Ehdin, Jounieh. We went everywhere, and we were just floored by the beauty of the country. But it also in 95, 96 felt that it was just coming out of a very traumatic, long war. I mean, you could feel that there was a lot of rebuilding that needed to be done, not just physically but
I think,
emotionally.
yeah,
It,
95,
yes,
definitely 95, it was the rebuilding part. There was lots of
yeah,
rebuilding, structures, highways, you name it, everything was being done.
yeah,
Uh, but it had a buzz, it had an energy. And I think it had lots of beauty. Like you said, when you go to Baalbek and when you go to Jbeil, when you go to Jounieh, there's lots of beautiful things. And actually today, I think we have something that is unique, but unfortunately, uh, people are not people in Lebanon are not appreciating that. I think
mm,
أنا بسميها جوهرة. It's really whether
jewel.
it's in the mountains, whether it's on the beach, whether it's anywhere. It really is a jewel that
Yeah,
that that uh, that can be something special.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, Lebanon has moved on a lot. I think we have realized lots of things. Um, I think we have grown.
And tell
And
me,
in
Hussein,
terms
so
of
when you
the
when you
restaurant
went
industry, it
there,
has grown a lot.
yeah. Yeah, I know. Yes, but let's go back a moment though, before we talk about how it's progressed. But tell me a little bit about how you began to establish yourself as a chef in Beirut. I mean, you are now considered I mean, coming to your kitchen in Beirut is a rite of passage. I mean, I don't think a trip to Lebanon is complete without a visit to your kitchen. But how did you get to that point? I mean, what what did you do when you first arrived back? What was your idea? What was your concept? What did you learn in the U.S. that you wanted to bring
Listen,
back?
I think everything, when I came back, actually everything was prepared for me. My mom had bought two plots of land. One was actually used for building the kitchen, which is my kitchen nowadays. And the other is actually a family home for my sister and myself, plus
Hmm.
a reception area for the invitees who would come to the kitchen. Um, so she had this thing planned, and I always had the idea that the restaurant business is not something for me. I
Mm,
wanted something more unique. I wanted my own time. I felt that doing my own thing would give me more time. Um, I started actually uh, wanting to do lots of seated dinners, but realized with time that Lebanon likes buffets. So
Mm.
from seated dinners changing into buffets because they wanted more items on the table, something to select from. It changed the way of thinking because actually I was also um, taught at San Domenico, New York, and at the French culinary industry um, that um, plating was the thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, but then it became a bigger scope whereby you have to do a big dish and everything has to be nice and colorful. You have to create, you have to uh, always change because of changing. Lebanon being a small market, uh, invitees can be invited twice or three times during the week. So you have to think of all of those things.
Yeah.
Um, Ingredients were not easy to come by. We used to buy everything from outside. Um, so it's not a big source. French market like Rungis, where the thing to go to. We used to have people who are suppliers who used to bring them for us. We are very well connected. We used to get everything that we wanted.
Hmm.
Um, Fish was available, meats from Australia, from America, from South Africa, uh, everything. Um,
And when you started,
but
Hussein, no one was offering the
what made it,
formula that you were doing, in this almost home away from home sort of idea. This was not this was not available
yes,
in Beirut at the time.
catering at home is actually you go. No, it was something new.
Yeah.
Not many people had that idea. I
Hmm.
used to come in, have my own equipment, I used to take everything with me, from the
Yes.
olive oil, the salt, the pepper, everything. I
Yeah.
used to go to the client, bring in all my things. I do my mise en place, prepare everything in the kitchen, go to their place.
Hmm.
They would say, "Oh, you brought in your saute pan. Oh, you brought in your pot. Oh, you brought." I said
Yeah.
yes because I did not want to interfere with their things,
Yes.
and I think with that, people started to appreciate because I used to go there, not using any of their things, their
Mm,
tools,
mm, mm.
um, which I think was something new. I think also in the world, maybe in Paris or London, I think it was also something that was being created, and I think it was an innovation. I think.
Hussein, I want to turn our attention a little bit to the idea of working in times of crisis, because you clearly have been through many years of uncertainty in Beirut, and every time we all think things are going to get better, that something else pops up. So you had the 2006 war with Israel. Then, of course, much later we have Corona. How do you mitigate against these issues in some way? Do you have a backup plan? How do you work in this sort of environment? Where you obviously are resilient as a person, but how, on a bigger scale, how do you get through all this?
I think we it's not something that we a trait that we have. I think you learn with time. I think what we had in 2019 was something um, that basically hit everybody, and I think it took us some time to actually adapt to the Lebanese currency against the dollar, banks, how they were like treating us and so forth. Actually, I think lots of us made lots of losses in between because we never, I think for a year or year and a half, I don't think anybody was making money. But you learn to be resilient. You learn to be, I think for me, I think I learned to be independent in the sense that you work by yourself and you start, and it's like as if you started a new business again without maybe the banks. Um,
Yeah.
and then we did something which is special. we did something called the underground kitchen. The underground kitchen, because people were not entertaining at home and they were not really sure what they wanted to do. Underground kitchen came from something that I had in mind. Actually, the kitchen being underground made it gave the name of underground kitchen, and it's something to do with street food. Actually, street food that were that we can share, whether it is Lebanese, whether it's Thai, whether it's Indian, whether it's Turkish, all those things that are fascinating, that you can have them all around the table, done in a very simple and in a cheaper form of dining. Maybe you can call it in a more refined street food, given a twist, a la Hussein
Yeah.
Hadid maybe, and
Mm.
actually you
Yeah.
realize how people were passionate by all of this. Although we were in COVID situations, we had to put on the table, which I had because I had a big table of 7 meters, 8 meters. We used to sort of divide people, and we used to have plexiglass in between each invitees. So it was a bit weird,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and actually the number of people, for example, we used to invite, let's say, 30 people, but with the COVID situation, we like reduced it to 16. But I can tell you, I get always phone calls, people asking me, when are you going to have the underground kitchen? When are you going to do this? And when are you going to do that? Um, People loved it. Um,
Fundamentally, I think people love to be together. People miss a connection, and that's you're giving them a way to connect with each other. And I think you've always offered the best of the best in terms of quality, but providing the street food idea when times are tough is clever, and it makes people still come out. It's easier on their wallet, and the fundamental thing is they're able to connect over an amazing meal, and
and it
that's
makes
what
them
people
and it makes
need.
them happy. And it makes them happy because they're like
Yeah,
sitting at home, can't able to do anything, but at least, it's something they can go and say, I'm gonna pay whatever, 25 bucks for something which is not something like, you're not paying $100, so you don't feel like
exactly,
you're suffering. You feel fine. You say
exactly,
to yourself, I'm gonna eat well,
exactly,
I'm gonna enjoy, we're gonna have a laugh, we're gonna have a drink. Um, and
exactly,
and and and
exactly.
I think at that time, people that's what people wanted, and they needed that.
Yeah.